She said, "Don't propose, my friends will laugh at the ring you can afford." So, I didn't. I proposed to someone else a year later. With a $12,000 ring. At the same restaurant she watched from 2 tables away. Hey, viewers, just a quick thank you. Over 14% of you are already subscribed, and it means the world to me. If you're new here and enjoy these stories, join the family by hitting that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000. I remember when Claire and I first started dating. We had been together for about a year and a half, and I was feeling the pressure. I was 31, working as a software engineer, making around $72K a year. Claire, on the other hand, was 27, working in marketing for some high-end fashion company. She was always worried about appearances, about what people thought of us, how we looked, how we were seen. It was like we were living in a world where your value was tied to how much you had, how successful you appeared, and how impressive your possessions were. We had reached that point in the relationship where it seemed like everyone around us was expecting the next big step, an engagement. Her friends were dropping hints. Her mom, too. It was becoming a regular topic of conversation. So, I started saving up. I knew I wanted to propose. I just wanted to make sure it was the right moment. After a lot of budgeting, I figured I could afford about a $2,800 ring. It wasn't huge, but it was decent, especially considering my finances at the time. I went to a local jeweler and found a beautiful piece. The stone was nice, the setting classic and timeless. The jeweler explained everything in detail, and I felt excited. This was the ring I was going to use to propose to Claire. Her birthday was coming up, and we had a reservation at Marcello's, this upscale Italian place she loved. It was the kind of restaurant where everything looked elegant, the candles, the atmosphere, the soft music playing in the background. I had planned it all. I had the ring hidden in my jacket pocket, and I was ready. This was the night. As we sat down, I started guiding the conversation toward the future. I talked about how happy I was with her, how I could see us building a life together. The dessert came, and I knew the moment had arrived. Claire looked at me, her face serious. "Actually, we should probably talk about something." I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my expression neutral. "What's up?" She sighed, then said, "Well, my friend Jessica got engaged last month, and honestly, her ring is embarrassing. Like, really embarrassing. She tries to hide it when we go out because it's so small." I felt my heart sink even lower, but I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Claire continued, "Brad, I know you've been thinking about proposing, and I need you to know that my friends would absolutely judge whatever ring you can afford right now. It would be humiliating for both of us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The ring I had spent so much time choosing for her, what was supposed to be a symbol of my love, wasn't good enough. She went on, "Look around the restaurant. See those couples? The women all have real rings, substantial rings. I can't show up to events with something tiny just because you're not ready financially." My mind was racing. Was she really saying this? Was she saying I couldn't propose because she would be embarrassed? "You're saying don't propose because you'd be embarrassed by what I can afford?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "I'm saying, be realistic about where you are in life. There's no shame in waiting until you can do it properly." The waiter brought the check, and I paid it without saying much. We drove home in complete silence. "Are you mad?" she asked when we got to her door. "No," I said, my voice calm. "You were very clear about your expectations." That night, I returned the ring. Full refund. No questions asked. But as I drove home, I started to think about what had just happened. Claire had shown me exactly what she valued. It wasn't love. It wasn't our relationship. It was appearances. 2 weeks later, I ended it with her. "It's about the ring conversation, isn't it?" she asked when I told her. I shook my head. "It's about knowing what really matters to you." At first, I thought maybe I was just overreacting. Maybe she didn't mean it the way it came out. But then I kept replaying her words in my head. My friends will laugh at the ring you can afford. That stung. That wasn't a small concern. That was the heart of the issue. I spent the next few days thinking about everything, about us, about what she said, about what I wanted out of life. And the more I thought, the clearer it became, I deserved someone who valued me for who I was, not for what I could buy. So, 2 weeks later, I broke up with her. She didn't see it coming. We were sitting in her living room when I said the words. "Claire, this isn't working." She froze, her eyes searching mine for some kind of explanation. "What do you mean?" "This is about the ring conversation, isn't it?" she asked, already knowing the answer. I looked at her and said, "It's about knowing what really matters to you." She tried to backtrack, like I thought she would. "Brad, I was just being practical. I didn't want you to waste money on something I'd be embarrassed to wear." I appreciate the honesty. But that wasn't enough. She didn't get it. She wasn't listening. I knew in that moment that the values that had driven our relationship were never going to align. She cared more about appearances, about how we looked to the outside world. And I was tired of pretending I could live up to that. I shook my head, standing up. "I can't do this anymore, Claire. I need someone who values me for me, not for the ring I can buy or the things I own." I saw her face fall, but I didn't flinch. I had made my decision. I was done. "Brad, please. I didn't mean it like that. Can we work through this?" she said, her voice shaky now. But it was too late. The words had been said. The damage had been done. And I couldn't unhear what I'd heard. That night, I went back to the jewelry store where I'd bought the ring. I returned it, no questions asked. They gave me the full refund. It felt like I was letting go of more than just a piece of jewelry. It felt like I was letting go of the dream I had of building a life with someone who didn't care about the same things I cared about. The next few days were rough. I didn't know what to do with myself. The breakup felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, but also like a part of me was missing. I had invested so much emotionally in Claire, in the idea of us together. And now, I was facing the reality that she had never truly seen me, never truly valued me. I threw myself into work. It was easier to focus on that than to dwell on the emptiness I felt. I started freelancing on weekends, taking on small web projects for local businesses. The extra money wasn't huge, but it was nice. More than that, I felt like I was learning new skills. I was starting to build something for myself. 8 months passed since the breakup, and I felt different. Stronger. More confident. I wasn't defined by Claire or our failed relationship anymore. I was building my own life, my own future. That's when I met Anna. It happened so casually. I had stopped by a coffee shop one morning near my office, just to get some work done, when I noticed her sitting at a corner table, typing away on her laptop. We started talking, just a few words at first, then it turned into a casual conversation. Anna was different from Claire in every way that mattered. She was down to earth, practical, and didn't care about impressing anyone. She lived modestly, not because she couldn't afford more, but because she chose to. Her focus wasn't on flashy things or appearances, it was on building something real. Anna ran her own digital marketing consulting business for small businesses. She had started it 2 years ago, and it was steadily growing. It wasn't about luxury cars or designer clothes. It was about hard work, dedication, and honesty. She didn't need to impress anyone to feel secure in who she was. As we spent more time together, I realized that Anna was everything I had been looking for. She was kind, smart, and supportive. We enjoyed simple things, hiking, cooking together, finding free events around the city. It wasn't about what we could show off, it was about how much we enjoyed each other's company. Anna never made me feel like I had to prove anything. She didn't care about what ring I could afford or what kind of car I drove. She just cared about me. And that's when I knew. I knew she was the one. As the months passed, Anna and I grew closer. What started as simple coffee dates turned into something much more. She was the first person I'd been with in a long time who made me feel like I didn't have to hide any part of myself. There was no pressure to be anything more than who I was. We spent weekends hiking through the local trails, talking about everything and nothing. We cooked dinner together most nights, laughing over the simplest things, like the time I accidentally burned a roast and tried to cover it up by dousing it in sauce. Anna just laughed, shaking her head, and said, "Well, it's the thought that counts, right?" And she was right. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being real with each other. Our relationship wasn't built on grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was built on shared values, on understanding and supporting each other. Anna never made me feel like I had to buy her something extravagant or prove my worth through material things. She appreciated the small things, the thoughtful gestures, the time spent together, the effort I put into our relationship. And I did the same for her. She worked hard at her digital marketing consulting business. She had started it a couple of years ago, and it was growing steadily. She wasn't in it for the fame or to get rich quick. It was about doing something meaningful for small businesses, helping them grow in a way that made sense for them. I admired that. She had this quiet determination, a focus that wasn't driven by the need to impress others. I was doing well too. Freelance work was growing, and I had managed to land a few bigger projects. My main job had given me a small promotion, bumping my salary to $78K. It wasn't a fortune, but it was steady, and it felt good to be building something on my own terms. We both had big dreams, but we didn't need to flaunt them. Our success wasn't about showing off to the world. It was about quietly building a life we could both be proud of. Around the 12-month mark of dating, I knew I wanted to marry Anna. But this time, the proposal would be different. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I didn't care about showing off a flashy ring to make anyone else jealous. I just wanted to give Anna something meaningful, something that spoke to who she was, not just what was trendy or expensive. I knew Anna liked vintage jewelry. She'd mentioned before that modern rings sometimes felt too flashy for her taste. She preferred something simple, something with character. So, I started visiting antique shops and estate jewelry stores. I wasn't looking for the biggest stone or the most expensive setting. I was looking for something that told a story. After weeks of searching, I found it, an antique ring from the 1940s. It was perfect. The setting was simple, classic, and beautifully crafted. The stone had this soft glow to it, and it fit Anna's style perfectly. I knew she would love it. The price tag was $4,200, which was a little more than I had originally planned to spend, but it was worth every penny. This ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of the relationship we had built together. The night I planned to propose was simple. We weren't going to some fancy restaurant. We were going to the park where we'd had some of our best conversations. We'd walked there so many times before, and it felt like the perfect place. I could feel my nerves kicking in as I slipped the ring into my pocket, trying to steady my breathing. I knew this was the right moment, but it still felt huge. Proposing is always a big deal. There's no way around that. But this time, I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for us. As we walked through the park, Anna took my hand and squeezed it, looking over at me with that warm smile she always had. "You okay?" she asked, noticing the look on my face. I smiled back. "I'm more than okay," I said, my voice a little shaky, but I was ready. We found a bench by the water, and I sat down first, patting the spot next to me. She sat beside me, and we watched the sun dip lower in the sky, casting a golden light over the water. "Anna," I said softly, turning to face her. "I've been thinking a lot about this. About us. And about the future. You make me want to be a better person every day. You support my dreams, and I support yours. You're my partner in every sense of the word. And I can't imagine my life without you in it." Anna looked at me, her eyes soft and searching, as if she knew something was coming but wasn't sure what. "I've been thinking about this moment for a long time," I said, pulling the ring from my pocket. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building something real, just like we've been doing all along. I dropped to one knee, holding the ring out to her. Anna, will you marry me? Her eyes went wide as she took in the ring, her face lighting up with joy. And then, without a moment's hesitation, she said, yes. Of course, yes. I slid the ring on her finger, and she laughed, pulling me up to kiss me. I could feel her hands trembling as she held me close. In that moment, everything else faded away. It wasn't about the ring or the proposal. It was about the life we had already started to build, the love we shared, and the future we were going to create together. We spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and calling our families to share the news. We didn't care about anyone else's opinion. This was our moment. Our love was the only thing that mattered. The week leading up to the proposal felt like a blur. I had the ring tucked away in my dresser. The day of the proposal arrived, and I couldn't help but feel nervous. It was funny because I had already been through so much in my life, job changes, the breakup with Claire, building a business on my own, and yet, here I was, nervous as hell about asking one simple question. But this wasn't just any question. It was the question. The one that would change our lives forever. Anna had no idea. She thought we were just going to have a quiet dinner together to celebrate a milestone with her client. Her marketing business had just landed a big project, and they wanted to take her team to dinner at Marcelo's, the upscale restaurant where Claire and I had that disastrous conversation. Anna had no idea about the history behind it. It seemed like fate. That same restaurant. The place where everything went wrong with Claire. But now, it felt like the perfect place to turn the page, to start a new chapter with Anna. And so, I made a reservation at Marcelo's for an hour after Anna's dinner was scheduled to start. It would be perfect, she'd be finishing up with her client, and we would be just starting our celebration. We arrived at the restaurant, and Anna looked stunning. She had picked out this beautiful navy dress, the one she had worn to another client event, elegant and professional. But as we walked through the door, I could see her eyes scanning the room. She spotted her client group right away, about 8 people around a big table, finishing up their business dinner. Anna waved at them, and I could tell she was excited but focused on the job she had to do. She'd always been like that, polite, professional, never too much or too little. She was always in control, but in the most natural, effortless way. As we were seated, I noticed something familiar about one of the women sitting at the client table. I had to do a double take. Was that? No, it couldn't be. But then it clicked. It was Claire. She had somehow ended up at Anna's client dinner. It wasn't impossible. This was a small city, and Claire had worked in marketing too. But seeing her there, just a few tables away, caught me off guard. Anna didn't notice right away, but I could feel her eyes flicking back to that table as she spotted the familiar faces. She looked at me, noticing the slight tension in my shoulders. You okay? Anna asked, her voice soft but filled with concern. I smiled and tried to shake it off. Yeah, just thinking about dessert. I'm good. I wasn't good. But I didn't want to ruin the moment. I had planned this night for months, and I wasn't about to let anything, especially Claire, get in the way. A few minutes later, the waiter brought out our first course, and we both dug into our meals. But my mind kept drifting back to the table where Claire was sitting. She hadn't noticed me yet, but I could see the confusion on her face as she took in the sight of me sitting with Anna. There was something almost surreal about it. A year ago, I had been planning to propose to Claire here, only to be shot down because of my embarrassing ring. Now, here I was, sitting across from Anna, the woman who valued me for who I was, not for what I could afford. The night went on. We laughed, we talked about the future, and I felt a growing sense of peace. It was strange, but there was something about having Claire just across the room that made me realize how far I had come. It was like the universe was showing me that I had made the right choice by walking away from the toxic relationship I'd once been in. As the night went on, I could tell that Anna was getting more excited. Her eyes kept darting to her phone, checking the time. She was looking forward to celebrating with me. But then the moment came, the one I had been waiting for. The waiter brought out our dessert, and I could feel my heart pounding. It was time. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulling out the small velvet box. I couldn't help but feel a little nervous, but I also felt an overwhelming sense of confidence. This wasn't just about the ring. It wasn't about making a grand gesture. This was about making a promise to Anna, to us. As I opened the box, Anna's eyes widened. She looked down at the ring, and for a second, I could see her face light up in pure joy. She wasn't focused on the price or the flashiness of the ring. She was focused on the meaning behind it, on the love that came with it. And that was everything. I took a deep breath, then got down on one knee. "Anna," I said, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach, "I've been thinking about this moment for a long time. About you, about us, and about the future we're going to build together. You make me want to be a better person every day. You support my dreams." Anna's eyes were shining, and she looked at me like she couldn't believe what was happening. I smiled and asked, "Will you marry me?" Without missing a beat, she said, "Yes. Yes, of course." The entire restaurant seemed to pause for a moment. I slid the ring onto her finger, and the applause started. People were cheering, some clapping, and Anna was crying, her face full of joy and disbelief. I stood up, pulling her into my arms, and kissed her. It felt like the entire world had faded away, and it was just us celebrating this beautiful moment, this new chapter. As we stood there, holding each other, I couldn't help but glance over at Claire's table. She had stopped in her tracks, staring at the ring on Anna's finger. I couldn't tell what she was thinking, but I didn't need to know. It didn't matter anymore. I had made the right choice. Anna and I stayed for another hour, enjoying the champagne that the waiter had brought over to celebrate, basking in the warmth of our happiness. We talked, we laughed, and we shared this beautiful moment together. It was everything I had hoped for, and more. On the way home, Anna couldn't stop looking at the ring, her eyes shining. "I can't believe you kept this secret from me," she said, her voice full of awe. "How did you even find time to shop for something so perfect?" I smiled, my heart full. "I've been looking for months. I wanted to find something that was just right for you. And it was perfect. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about the love we shared and the promise of a future we were building together." The days that followed our engagement were a whirlwind. Anna and I were still riding high on the joy of that night, still savoring the feeling of beginning something so meaningful. We were planning the wedding, but we were also taking time to enjoy the quiet moments, just us. We had already built a life together that was so different from anything I'd imagined before. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't perfect. But it was real, and that was more than enough for me. I still remember how Anna kept staring at her ring in the days after I proposed. She would catch herself admiring it, almost as if she couldn't believe it was real. I could see how much it meant to her, not because of its cost or size, but because it symbolized everything we had been through together and everything we were about to build. Our friends and family were thrilled. When we shared the news, there were no awkward reactions or forced congratulations. Everyone seemed genuinely happy for us, and it felt right. The love and support we received from both sides was comforting. This was the kind of relationship I'd always wanted, one built on mutual respect, trust, and a shared understanding of what truly matters. But there was one thing that kept lingering in the back of my mind, the thought of Claire. It's funny how, no matter how much you move on, certain people seem to stay in your thoughts. I had heard from a mutual friend that Claire had been asking about me, about how I was doing. She wanted to know if I was successful now, if Anna came from money, if everything was going well. It was like she couldn't let go of the idea of what I was doing, but in a way that felt more about curiosity than genuine care. It wasn't a surprise. Claire had always been fixated on appearances, and I guess some things don't change. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wasn't angry with her anymore. There was no need for that. She had shown me what I didn't want in a partner, and that lesson had been invaluable. What I needed was someone who cared about me, not about what I could provide or how I looked. Anna had shown me that from the very start. She had taught me that love wasn't about showing off, it was about building something real together. As for Claire, well, I'd heard she was still asking about me, still wondering if I was doing well. But it didn't matter. The truth was, she didn't really want to know how I was doing. She was more interested in the financial angle. I had moved on from that world of judgment and superficiality, and I didn't need to go back. What mattered now was what I had with Anna. We had started building a life that was grounded in something far more meaningful than status or wealth. We weren't trying to impress anyone. We weren't playing a game of appearances. We were just living our truth, and that felt more fulfilling than anything I could have ever imagined. I was doing well at work, too. My freelance business had grown, and my salary had increased again. I was now making $92K a year, and that felt like a real accomplishment. But more than the money, it was the sense of stability. Claire had taught me to recognize when someone's values didn't align with mine. I had spent so long trying to please her, trying to fit into the mold she had created for us. But Anna had taught me what it felt like to be with someone who valued authenticity over appearances, someone who didn't need to prove anything. That was the real gift. The best part wasn't showing Claire what she had lost. It wasn't about proving anything to her. It was about finding someone who appreciated everything I had to offer, without expectations or judgment. It was about creating a life with someone who had the same values, someone who didn't care about impressing anyone, someone who cared about us. Now, Anna and I were planning our honeymoon. We were looking at places we wanted to experience together, Portugal, maybe Spain. We weren't interested in traveling to show off. We just wanted to explore new places, make memories, and build a life full of shared experiences. The truth was, I had no regrets. The past had led me to this moment, to the life I was creating with Anna. Claire had been a part of my story, but she wasn't the end of it. Anna was. And together, we were writing a new chapter, one filled with love, growth, and the kind of happiness that lasts. Some people never realize what they had until it's too late. But I wasn't going to waste any more time on the past. I had found the person I was meant to be with, and that was all that mattered now. We were building something real. And that was enough.